to, like, anyone who, like, thinks genocide is bad, that also was a problem, because the people that she needed to vote for her overwhelmingly think those things.
Date there, and that they don't think it would have impacted the outcome one way or the other. James Carville weighed in on this question.
Oh God, yeah. Why the fuck are we still hearing from him? Well, I thought we were done with that reptilian-looking motherfucker. And I mean, I say that I really hate that David Icke has made that reptilian thing into. Made that, popularized this ridiculous anti-Semitic conspiracy theory about shape-shifting Jewish lizards ruling the world, because it means that there's a whole bunch of context around pointing out that motherfucker looks like a damn gecko. But he does. And that's nothing to do, fuck David Icke.
Watch what he had to say.
Thinking about going on Joe Rogan's show, and a lot of the younger progressive staffers pitched a hissy fit. If I were running a 2028 campaign,
well, yeah, motherfucker, your crowning electoral achievement, James Carville, was taking the low-income vote from 61% of the turnout in 1991 to 47% in 1999. Like, maybe just sit the fuck down. Nobody cared. Nobody wanted to hear from you in the 90s. We're past that. We all kind of hoped, assumed, I'm not sure what the word is, that you might be just dead or something.
I had some little snot-nosed 23-year-old saying, I'm going to resign if you don't do this. Not only would I fire that on the spot.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds harsh, except if you fire them on the spot, rather than having them resigning, they get to claim unemployment. So that's actually a favor from this fucking turtle-ass motherfucker.
Find out who hired
Skeletor, yeah, that's about right.
James Carville's, speaking of, like, DNC insiders who contribute to the rot.
Spot. I'm really not interested.
Nobody's interested. Like, why does anyone give a fuck what your interest is? I mean, nobody cares. This motherfucker has the pulse, his finger on the pulse right here. Absolutely. This is the guy I go to. His whole thing is looking at Democrats and saying, nope, not right-wing enough yet.
In your uninformed, stupid opinion as to whether you go on Joe Rogan.
But the thing is, the people who watch Joe Rogan are not, for the most part, people who will actually vote for Democrats. The people who hate Joe Rogan, on the other hand, are people who, if they do vote, will probably only vote for Democrats. So, yeah, I mean, this idea that would have made such a difference, that's bullshit. I don't buy it. I mean, and it's so ridiculous to be talking about this and not talking about, like, actual policies, actually talking about the elephant in the room.
At first, the message from the campaign was just, ooh, we couldn't find the time. But now you have people saying, oh, there were progressives within the campaign who were really upset about the...
Yeah, because it would actually be a really bad idea. It would be doubling down. I mean, the message she was already sending with the border bullshit, with the genocide, with, avoiding ever defending trans people. All of that sort of stuff, with all those anti-immigrant ass sheriffs that they paraded around on the convention. I mean, was already like she's dog whistling to the far right, and she's going to throw like core constituencies under the bus completely. And going on Joe Rogan would almost certainly just confirm that. I don't think that would have made a positive difference. Because the people you could pick up, the votes you could pick up there, are not going to go to her, no matter what. I mean, we actually have the figures now. Both times the Democrats have, like, tried to spend a whole lot of time going after this mythical cryptid, this cryptozoological wonder, the moderate white nationalist who would totally vote for a Democrat if the Democrat was just white nationalist enough. And you know how many self-identified Republicans voted for Trump this time? It was 94%. They didn't make a bit of difference because this demographic does not fucking exist.
The idea, and then you have people saying, well, it was because Kamala Harris was really worried about being confronted about her position on marijuana, you know, and it's...
I mean, and given her history, the thing is, on the one hand, she ought to be worried. She ought to be worried because it's actually fucked up how she, like, tried to sort of humanize herself and move away from her, like, cop image by talking about how she used to like to smoke a blunt in university or whatever. But at the same time, that immediately raises the issue that she put a huge number of people, mostly black men, in prison just over weed beefs. So yeah, I mean, if she had any political instincts at all, she should find that a bit, she should be nervous about that. But I see no evidence she has any political instincts at all. So I don't know if that, I don't entirely buy that is something that made her nervous. It should.
There were probably a bunch of reasons that went into it. I think that was the main one. That was the main one. That was the most important one by far.
Being for the person who has to explain and answer for all of this for us today. What did go wrong?
Yeah. Look, I hate these postmortems, and Mike and I have been talking about this.
Yeah, why can't we just why can't we just move on and not learn anything? I mean, admittedly, they're going to show you can do one of these postmortems and not learn anything. But, yeah.
And this is going to go on for weeks and weeks and weeks. There were a myriad of things that happened over the course of the last 4 years, and even 8 years that led to what happened on November 5th. Look, two things that stand out to me. I think my friends on the Kamala campaign are correct. 107 days is not enough time to run for president.
We're not talking... I mean, the thing is, what's left out, and the Democrats don't like talking about this, because it reflects poorly on the people they insist on running as candidates. Trump is extremely unpopular. By default, if you had somebody who was even moderately popular and had moderately popular positions on the issues and wasn't already a hate figure because of their history, then there's no reason that should be at all difficult. The Democrats, though, use that as an excuse to run candidates who are absolute fucking garbage. And because the idea is you can just scare people about Trump and they'll vote for any piece of shit you come up with. Except it doesn't work like that because the Democrats are not competing against Republicans. They're competing against abstention. You gotta give them somebody. If you want people to actually vote for you, you have to give them a reason.
That's just a fact. And on the other side, Donald Trump has now run 3 times. This is the 3rd Democratic nominee that he's run against. And so Donald Trump has run for president 3 times, and so he's been able to see this.
And he's run against
a lot more strongly than any of our candidates have.
And let's note, he has run against basically the same campaign twice, and both times he won. Like, I mean, this is the Clinton campaign with the added element of the candidate actively being complicit in genocide at the time. And the Clinton campaign was bad to begin with.
Because we've switched over each of the 3 times, and so.
But you don't have any messaging, so it doesn't.
Well, yeah, but they do have messaging. It's just shithouse messaging. I mean, the messaging is, basically, we're doubling down on genocide. Fuck anyone who disagrees with that. If you think that if you don't like the idea of, if you're Latina living in a border community and you don't like the idea of fucking migra being up your ass all the fucking time and a wall being in your backyard, then fuck your vote, we don't need it. And then, queer people who would like to actually hear someone come and stand in our defense, maybe, because there's been this nasty ass onslaught that has a lot of people talking about emigrating and actually doing it, and 260,000 at least internally displaced people. And so when you go and refuse to actually stand in defense of them, basically that's another fuck your vote. And all this cop shit, well, I mean, anyone who wanted to see less cop shit, who perhaps doesn't like that we're having a record-breaking 4 years in terms of murders by cops, I mean, that's fuck your vote to them too. And eventually you run out of votes.
Matter. And also, like, maybe you should have a VP who's more active to begin with.
I mean, the thing is, Waltz... I mean, Waltz was more active to begin with. And at the time, I mean, like, with that whole thing about, like, these guys are weird, if they had just let him go with that and let that be his trademark, all his negatives, like, you know, sending the military out to attack Black Lives Matter protesters, and his involvement with, I believe it was the Enbridge pipeline after saying he would never do that, and various other things, probably wouldn't matter. The fact that he was just going, wow, look at these guys, they're constantly obsessed with other people's genitals, it's all they talk about, wow, they're weird motherfuckers. I mean, he probably could have carried the fucking campaign with that. Because that was at least some kind of energy. But by the time that debate rolled around, it was like they sent him to some sort of finishing school, or possibly gave him a lobotomy. And you heard him, like, this dead ass saying, our security depends on the expansion of Israel and its proxies. And just giving absolutely, like, zero fucking energy. Like, I mean, they basically killed the most dynamic aspect of the fucking campaign right there. And that would have been an aspect that would have actually balanced out the fact that, you know, for example, Harris's shithouse on trans rights. Whereas fucking, you know, Waltz actually has a reasonable record on that. And you could use that, but they decided they didn't want to, even though support for trans rights is overwhelming, polls extremely well. Being obsessed with violating trans rights polls extremely badly. They didn't want to do that. They didn't want to defend trans people, which really, it's just wonderful feeling, you know? Yeah, to just know that the entire political class is declaring open season on a very marginalized community. Great, wonderful, wonderful feeling, wonderful times we're living in, nationally and worldwide. But, God, yeah, but of course they're not going to talk about that. And then they got fucking that, like, velociraptor-looking Carville out there to say, no, the problem is they're too woke. Because that's the word he learned recently after hatching. And molting. Yeah, molting more than hatching.